friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Welcome to an evening stream, and also the second stream of the day. But the plan for today is to build a CRUD client with Vue.js. So a few weeks ago, we built a CRUD client with React. I have not yet edited that video to upload to YouTube, but I will. And I'm also going to have a video on building a CRUD client with Vue, because about a month ago, we built a CRUD API with Express and TypeScript, and so now we're going to build a client with Vue.js. Yeah, and so that's what I have to decide in terms of what styling solution we're going to choose. And I think I might try to use the Vuetify beta or alpha or whatever it's in. Because when we did it with React, we used Material UI. So yeah, I think I'm going to try to use Vuetify. And then I also need to do a little bit of research on what we use for making API requests. Because there is a package called vue-query, which is very similar to React query. But the thing is, Tanstack query or React query says that vue query is coming soon, like an official version of it that's based off of React query. So yeah. No, we won't use Tailwind because I want it to be similar to how we did it for the React app, which was we used pre-built components and specifically Material UI. So yeah, I mean, if we went with Tailwind, I would want to find like a Vue. Well, first of all, we probably could use Flowbyte. And then Flowbyte, I think, might have a Vue version. Like we're not writing our styles from scratch. We're using pre-built components. So we could use something like this. With the standalone Flowbyte Vue components. And under the hood, this uses Tailwind. But inside of our Vue app, we can just say button. And then we get these. So yeah, I wouldn't just use Tailwind directly because I want some pre-built components. Yeah, Daisy UI is another option for that. But Vuetify is the de facto component library for Vue, except they haven't released a version, an official version for version 3 yet. And it's taking them a lot longer than they expected. So it's currently in beta. I honestly think we're going to use it because, yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, Drills, is like, Vuetify is what most people would use anyways. And I have heard of Prime Vue, and I've used it slightly. I haven't built like a big, big app with it. And it seems fine. It's got a lot of stuff built into it, but then it also, like, I can't tell where they start charging money and then where it's free. I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with Vuetify, even though it's currently in beta. Most people in the Vue world are using Vuetify, so that's probably what I'm going to use. So that's the plan there. And also, I think right now, I am going to build this thing without pausing to talk like it's a tutorial. Like, I want to build it once, because I haven't built it yet. So I want to build it once, figure everything out, and then I'll do another stream later where I rebuild it, but I'm in more of, like, teaching tutorial mode, because I've already built it one time, so I can more easily talk through it. So this will be a bit of an exploratory process today. Yeah. I haven't heard of headless UI. A library of completely unstyled, fully accessible UI components designed to pair perfectly with Tailwind. Interesting. Interesting. And I've never heard of Carbon. Or maybe I have. Carbon... Is it Carbon UI? Carbon Design System? Yeah. No, not 3 streams today. Yeah, I mean, does Quasar support Vue 3? Because we actually could choose that instead, because Quasar actually is... They support Vue 3! And these are material components. It's like, it's possible that Quasar will outpace Vuetify because they supported Vue 3 before Vuetify. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Why is there no dark theme? Dark mode. I mean, they support dark mode. Do their components have a dark theme? The components do support dark theme, but what does it look like in dark theme? Regardless, welcome in, everyone. Glad to have you here. So yeah, so Carbon is a design system from IBM. There are implementations in React, Vue, etc. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, technically, so both Vuetify and Quasar implement material design, which is not Material UI. Material UI is a specific implementation for React. And so I want to find something comparable for the Vue app that we build. So these really are our two options. I mean, I think Prime Vue has a material theme, maybe? Yeah, so they do have an indigo dark theme. So this is another potential option. Though, I would argue it's not exactly material design. It's like slightly off. It's like slightly not material design. And there's deep purple dark. Material design compact. The things are smaller. They do have quite a lot of themes, and I think when I was researching Prime Vue, like some of these themes you can't use unless you have a paid license, something like that. Yeah, they do have a lot of pastel colors for sure as the default. I mean, this could be a good option. I think my main requirements are dark theme. I want a dark theme, and I want material design. Vuetify ticks those boxes. The only issue is that it is currently in beta. And the docs might not be perfectly updated, so that'll be tricky. And then Quasar is using Vue 3, and it is the latest version, but what does dark theme look like? Do I have to theme it myself, or just if I enable dark theme, do I just get it? Yeah, changing themes is pretty cool. Respects the browser choice for dark mode? Yeah. The thing is, for the React app that we build, I didn't do that. And so basically I'm building the same thing but with Vue instead. So I'm trying to keep it as similar as possible. And I don't want like extra things that get around, that shy away from the idea of CRUD, which is the main point here. I see what you're saying though. It would be nice to automatically select the theme. Dark mode. So that's a default dark background for the pages. All Quasar components with the dark property will have it automatically set to true. No need to do it manually. Auto detection works by looking at prefers color scheme dark. So we would get it for free if we used Quasar. Okay, I just want to see. Show me. I can't see it in the devs. Quasar dark mode example. Yeah. V1 dark mode? Plug in dark mode? Show me. Show me what it looks like. I can read the docs, but I don't want to set the whole thing up and then it not work how I expect it to work. Vue 3 Quasar dark mode? Patrick Montiero. Thank you for making this video, Patrick. Let's see what you got. Dark mode toggle. They're adding a little dark mode toggle. Cool. And setting it to true. So that's light mode, and then boom, you instantly get dark mode. I'd be curious to see, yeah, so like when he has a bunch of components, what does that look like in dark mode? And you get that for free? Didn't have to do any custom styling? Okay, that's a point for Quasar. Although Quasar doesn't have dark mode in their docs. Yeah, so the API we built about a month ago, and we built it with Express TypeScript, and we're using MongoDB. So you can look at the backend code there, but it's using MongoDB. Today we're only writing client-side code. Use the Quasar Vite plugin to integrate it in a Vite project. Okay. Okay. I think let's get going. So we need to set up the project, and I could. So we are going to use Vite, but I'm actually going to use the Vue CLI, which uses Vite under the hood, because technically I can go here to the Getting Started guide. I could run this command and then choose Vue, but the Vue CLI provides so much more. The Vite things here are really, they're just a project template. Like, it literally clones the template, and that's all you get. With the Vue CLI, you answer a lot of questions, and then it will dynamically change the setup based on those questions, and it sets up so much for you. It'll set up your store, your router, your styling solution, your testing solution. All of that is just ready to go. Whereas if you contrast that with how we had to set it up with React, we spent 6 hours just creating a base setup with like Prettier and ESLint and all of that stuff so that we could use it in the app. But if we use the Vue CLI, it's going to ask us these questions, and it'll set all this up for us. So let's do it. Let's go ahead and get started with the project setup. If you're just joining us, what I mentioned was I'm going to kind of figure this out as we go. And I'm not going to pause to like redo things or re-say them, because I will, at a later time, completely rebuild this app in the same way, but do it more in a tutorial style. But right now, we're just figuring things out. So I am currently in my Intro to TypeScript repo, and then I'm going to create a project in the examples folder called Vue TS client. So we are using TypeScript, and that's another aspect of what we're doing here is one of the main things is demonstrating the usage of TypeScript with Vue.js. We're not necessarily trying to demonstrate how to use a component library. I mean, we obviously are going to use a component library, but our focus is TypeScript. We want to show TypeScript support everywhere. So I'm going to call this Vue TS client. Yeah, so this will be uploaded to the archive channel, but it will not be cut for the main channel. I will do this again a separate time, and that one will be cut for the main channel. So I want TypeScript. I do not want JSX. So and welcome in, Shiwas. You're not too late. We're just now generating the app. Thank you for that posture check, Childa. You may not have known this, but you can actually use JSX with Vue. I'm not going to do that. Add Vue router. We do want that. Add Pina for state management. Someone just asked, are we going to use a store? And I don't know if we are. So if we, I'm going to go ahead and say yes here, but we might not use it. It'll set it up for us, and then if we need it, we have it. And I'm actually going to say yes on vtest. We're not going to write tests today, but the setup will be there so that when we do want to write tests, we're good to go. And then we won't have Cypress. Now, for all of you that are familiar with React, I want you to just see how beautiful this is. Like, I don't know of anything in the React ecosystem that will set up a project like this for you. Also, we can choose ESLint. Also, we can choose Prettier. And I could say yes or no to all of these things, and then it will instantly generate a project with all of that set up. And because I'm using the latest version, it uses Vite under the hood. So we'll see after it gets set up. And if I do npm run dev, it runs with Vite, and we'll see that. So, and this is what I was mentioning earlier. Like, if you just straight up cloned the Vite template for Vue here, you get a basic app that can run Vue, but you don't get a router, state management, testing, ESLint, Prettier. You don't get all of that stuff. It can't, though. So, this video on my channel set up Vite with ESLint, Prettier, vtest, and React Router. It edited down to an hour, but that was like a 4-5 hour stream of setting up that project. Vite doesn't give you all of that stuff. It gives you a basic build process, but you don't get all the extra like developer tooling. You have to set that up yourself. Cool. So you can see that it is using Vite, and if we go here, whoa, dark mode. This is our Vue app. Wait, why is it different between 1270? Oh, because I'm zoomed in 200%. I was like, okay. Yeah, and so like that's, I mean, this always becomes like a comparison between React, but look at this. I just set up a project in literally a minute, and I'm going to show you the code now. It has everything I need, and it's all set up and ready to go, and I can just start working on features. Like, look at it. Like, obviously, setting up these configs yourself will help you better understand what's going on here, but I have been developing long enough that I don't want to spend the time setting up all of these configs. The fact that it set them up for me, and the fact that I have the ability to edit them if I need to, is all I need. So that's great. So we've got our little Vite config here. I think I do want to get into setting up, yeah, so by default, we didn't get, we did not get Airbnb config for ESLint, so I do want to set that up. But we can see what we get. We have our main entry point for our Vue app. Why are these complaining? Oh, because Prettier has some rules for us. Oh, okay. So maybe I don't need to set up Airbnb config. Like, if I update my Prettier RC to set a default quote type, so let's look at Prettier. So the Vue CLI used to ask you what ESLint config you want. It looks like they don't do that anymore. They just give you like a basic one. And here we can set up our Prettier rc.json. So I want trailing commas, I want a 2-space tab, I want semiquotes, and I want single quotes. So I'll save that, reload the window, and then if we look at this, it should start complaining about the quotes, and if we run ESLint, it replaces them. So do I need the Airbnb config? I think what I like about the Airbnb config is it has even more opinions about like parentheses on an arrow function with one argument, and opinions about using arrow functions with an implicit return versus not whenever you can. I don't think you get that with Prettier, right? So let's just see an example. I should have a component in here with some JavaScript. Oh, what's up, Oscar? So Nux.js uses Vue. So it's the way you would compare it is if I did create React app for like a completely client-side code thingy. That's what I've just done here. This is all client-side code. There is no server-side rendering. There's no server component to it. Nux.js can do server-side rendering, and it can also do like a pre-done like static build. But this is what I'm wondering. So if we have numbers in an array like this, and then I say numbers dot for each num. And I don't know, log the number out. there are multiple ways to write this. And I guess I could probably, if we do like a map, then this is going to be a return. So I have like doubled numbers, and then I want to return number times 2. Yeah, so the ESLint Airbnb config would actually yell at me right now. I guess I could also do this. And this... Yeah, so Prettier, I guess, does have opinions about putting parentheses around single things, but apparently it doesn't have an opinion around implicit return, because if I were using the Airbnb config, it would be like, yo, you should rewrite this like this. But it's not telling me to do that. So I'm gonna figure out how to get Airbnb going for Vue here with TypeScript. I'm interested to see how, like, so they did connect up ESLint and TypeScript in some way. But let's figure out how to get Airbnb config. So set up the project for the most part. Now, before we set up a styling solution, I want ESLint Airbnb config. Let's just search the web really quick and see what people out there have done. Vue ESLint Airbnb config. So this is the official Vue organization. This repo contains 2 packages. If you're using ESLint in a JavaScript-only project, check the documentation of this. If you're using ESLint in a TypeScript project, check the documentation of this. The examples folder contains complete ESLint configurations by create Vue or Vue CLI. Okay, let's look at examples. We just did create Vue TypeScript, and let's pull their config. And I think, I mean, I don't know if we need that require thing. I'm going to put this, oh yeah, so they had it in there. So, we'll add this, but then we do need to add at Vue ESLint Airbnb config TypeScript as a dependency, I believe. We can look at their package.json to see how they've done it. Yeah, it is just, it's a straight up dependency here. So let's install this as a developer dependency. How can you code when Stack Overflow is on maintenance? Read the docs, or just try over and over again until it works. Okay, so we need to reload the window because we have new linting dependencies. They're just having fun drills, and also, like I said, this isn't a tutorial. I'm figuring things out. I don't know. So they were also on stream earlier today. Whenever we fixed the marquees and the statuses, so they're just having fun. I don't know. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, that seems fine. If I go back into this component, it's complaining. Yeah, and I want to see an error when there's no semicolons. That's good. Let's try this same thing. So 1, 2, 3. Numbers.map num return num times 2, like that. Yeah, so this is what I want to see, because this is like, hey, you should actually do an implicit return, and then if I run my linter, it fixes it. That was so easy. Why are we still using React? Like, all I did was copy the example from the official Vue example. I generated my app. I'm ready to go. I can just run my linter against my whole project right now and just start coding. This is insane. This is crazy. This is crazy. Imagine taking me seriously. Okay, but yeah, if I do npm run lint, that should fix all of the files, with like the missing semicolons and like using the wrong quotes and stuff like that. And it'll also catch anything that we need to fix manually. Like this, we'll have to fix these manually. Well, that's what I'm saying, Drills. And it wasn't just an hour. Like, well, let's look at the archive channel. Let's see how long it took us to set up. I mean, obviously, it's Twitch, so I'm talking to chat and all that. But that was a 6-hour stream. Like, that would be a day's work. You could literally bill your employer for a day's work to just set up a React app. Whereas I was done in 5 minutes. Okay. Numbers is assigned a value but never used. Cool, that's just example code. We'll get rid of that. Using target blank without rel, no opener is a security risk. I agree with that. Prefer default export. We can fix that. Use unary plus instead. Cool. I can fix all of these things easy. And then we can just get started coding. Hold on a minute. I can charge a full day to set up a project? Absolutely. Like if you... I mean, obviously, setting up a new project isn't something that happens often at companies because you're typically already working in an existing app or an existing project. But if you work at a consultancy where you're constantly creating new projects, which is what I was doing in my previous job, every few months I would be setting up a new project for a new client. And at my job, I had a template that I would start from, very similar to the one that we set up. But it had more opinions about styling and a few other things. But yeah. Okay, where are the other errors? Then the welcome. We're gonna remove all of these components to begin with, so I can ignore that. That's a Twitch default emote, the number 1. And then we have a store with a counter. And it does say prefer default export. And then it's not being used anywhere. Cool. And then I'm literally just going to remove these other components. So that's the next step we're at, is just get rid of all the boilerplate components. All those icons. Get rid of hello world. Get rid of the hello world tests. Cool. And then in our app, it has a router link with, yeah, we're even going to get rid of that. We're just going to have literally just a router view, so that will load all of the things. This is interesting. In the past, you didn't really import router view from view router, and now it's an explicit import, which I'm not opposed to, because it makes it more explicit as to where that router view is coming from. I'm gonna get rid of these default styles, and then if we look at our views, I'm gonna get rid of the about. The home view, instead of pulling in a component, is just gonna have an H1 that says hello world. And then we need to update the router to get rid of that about route. Cool. Run linter again. Great. The app is still running. If we go over here, it just says hello world. There's probably some more default styles that we need to rip out. So here's our app. Here's our home view. Yeah, we have a base CSS. Whoa, it came with all these variables and such. That's cool. But I'm also just gonna get rid of it. And then we've got the logo we can get rid of. And then there's main CSS, which imports base CSS. Wow. I'm going to delete base, and then main is going to be completely empty. We'll update those styles later. But I'm curious, where did they actually use those or define those? Let's see. Search the whole code base for main.css and see that it got imported by default right here. So that just imports it, which applies the styles to the whole app. So this is global CSS. And that's more of what I would expect. We just want to see hello world with no styles or anything like that. That's awesome. It's been so long since I worked in Vue, I forgot how much I love it. Everything is just so easy. Okay. How large can the file be before just... what do you mean? Yeah, we could call it global. I think that's... I like that naming because it's more explicit as to what it's actually doing. And if you're new to Vue, I'll show you in a bit how we do styles for individual components. And the styles are automatically, well, not, you can automatically scope the styles for this specific component. So I literally just add, I can do this. I just add a style section, and let's say I create like a style on main, and this has a background of black and a color of white. So now, right now, this actually is global CSS, but you can see that it adds that style. But if I just put the word scoped on here, now this CSS only applies to this one component. So if I had a main element in some other file, it wouldn't apply there. But that's just Vue. And Namaste Geek. Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Svelte, Vue existed before Svelte. You should have seen Svelte version 2, I think it was. It looked exactly like Vue version 2. So Svelte stole a lot of stuff from Vue, which is not a bad thing. Like, there's a lot of good ideas in Vue. So yeah. Okay, oh yeah, we decided did we decide we're going to use Quasar? No Tailwind. No Tailwind. I'm honestly not going to touch Tailwind again until I explicitly set out to learn Tailwind, and I explicitly set out to build a project with Tailwind. But the thing is, like, how many times have you seen me build something on stream where I write all of the styles from scratch? Rarely. And if I do, it's not even that many styles. So I wouldn't go through the process of setting up Tailwind because I would just use CSS. I don't know. To me, Tailwind makes sense if you're going to be writing all of your styles from scratch, and I'm not. There's like certain utilities in Tailwind that are very useful, like Flexbox and stuff like that. But that's all I need. I don't need all the extra stuff. So Tailwind is just another way of like approaching styling your app. And I'll show you why I don't think Tailwind is... I mean, I kind of just showed an example. Like, this is why I don't need Tailwind in this app. Like, my styles I get to define right here. They can affect the template of the component right next to them. I don't need... I don't need to do... I don't need to do this. I can just define CSS as it was meant to be. It's fine. I mean, regardless of you mentioning it live, once other people have mentioned it, and people will probably keep mentioning it as they come into the stream. All right, I'm going to run a poll, but I may not listen to it. Should we use Vuetify 3, which is in beta, or should we use Quasar, which is not in beta? You have 1 minute to vote. Now, here's my argument for Vuetify. Vuetify has been the most popular and kind of is the de facto component library for Vue.js. The one caveat is version 3 that works with Vue 3 is not a stable release yet. It's currently in beta. Quasar is not as popular as Vuetify, but they do support Vue 3. So show me how to get started. And so we could choose Quasar, and actually I guess Quasar technically it has its own CLI, but I think I actually can install Quasar components And I guess there's a Vite plugin for it that I could add, which gives us Quasar components. Yeah, and you can use Sass with Vue too. That's the other cool thing. Check this out. All I have to do is say lang equals SCSS. Boom. I can now use Sass right here. So I could say like the p tag inside of main has a background of yellow. Done. That's it. No extra setup either. I think I might just need to do a npm install of like node Sass, but that's it. The drop is broken. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Is VueSax Material UI? No. So we're specifically looking for Material UI, which is what both Vuetify and Quasar implement. I think Tailwind is useful if you're working in a large team, so everyone understands exactly what was applied. Sure. But CSS solves the same problem. You can just look at the CSS class and see what properties were applied to it. Yeah, captions should be on. Let me toggle them. Off, back on. Check, 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 check. Do you see them now? Yeah, welcome in, Mike the Tree Climber. All right, what did you all vote on? I can't see it. Quasar. Cool. We'll go with Quasar. Let's do it. Now, typically, when you generate... So here's the other thing. So Quasar has components, but Quasar is a whole lot more as well. So Quasar also lets you build cross-platform apps. So it has a way of integrating with Capacitor, which is a way of doing hybrid mobile applications, and it also has a way of integrating with Electron, so you can build desktop apps with it. I don't want any of those features. All I want are the components. This is what I want. Is like a button. Electron, ew, stop it. Just stop it. And so if we look at the code, Q button. I'm curious though, do I actually need the Quasar, like the Vite plugin? Or can I just import a component? So I want the Roboto font. I want material icons. Yeah, I don't want the CSS variables. We're in English. The icon set should be a web font. Sure. So we use the Quasar plugin with Vite. That should be all we need. That's really cool. Okay, so let's install it. Quasar extras and then the Vite plugin. Yeah, so Vue CLI is the old Vue CLI. So even though I used the Vue, it's a little bit confusing. So let me clarify that. Whenever I did the create here, this is actually what's it called? Create Vue. The Airbnb, the example that we saw in the Airbnb config showed a good example of it. ESLint Vue Airbnb config. Yeah. So if you look in their examples, they have a bunch of different ones, and then they have one that's Vue CLI and one that's Create Vue. So if you're using the CLI version, which doesn't include Vite, so whenever this app was generated with the Create Vue, it generated with Vite, and it's using Vite as the build tool. If you have a project that's not using Vite, then that's known as the Vue CLI. So it's a little bit confusing, but because we did it with the Create Vue app, then we should be using the Vite plugin, not the Vue CLI plugin. Because the Vue CLI used to have a whole way of installing plugins and stuff like that, but now I think they might just use Vite plugins instead. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is what we need. Let's go. Yeah, so create view and view CLI are different. It's a good change though. Like it's a good thing that it's using Vite now, but it is a little bit confusing. The biggest plus for Tailwind is that it solves a class naming problem. Yeah, but it's not a problem. It's like, I mean, we're not here to argue about Tailwind, but ultimately it comes down to developer preferences, right? People that have started using Tailwind and they like using it and didn't like coming up with class names and stuff like that, it's good for them. I think... Oh, and I don't mind coming up with CSS classes. I would prefer my CSS to be in a separate file. I would prefer to have reusable styles. And I would prefer to use a browser standard. That is, CSS is supported directly by the browser. I don't need any extra libraries or anything like that. Whereas with Tailwind, you need the Tailwind config and the runtime and all that stuff. And you could talk about, well, yeah, you could do Tailwind classes with apply and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's... My hot take on it is I think Tailwind is an anti-pattern, and I think 5 years from now, devs are going to be crying because they have to maintain Tailwind code bases. That's my hot take. Just use CSS and use all of the other built-in and solutions that have been working for so much longer. Okay, what are we doing? We installed that dependency. Now let's install this dependency. Oh no, I don't want Sass. Stop it. And I don't think I need Sass. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of, like, I don't know if people are trolling, but there are a whole lot of people talking about Tailwind. And obviously because it gets a rise out of me. So, yeah, I don't think we need Sass because we're just importing the regular CSS. But like obviously, like if you're listening to me say this stuff right now, you know that is just my opinion. Just because I say that I don't like Tailwind doesn't mean you can't use Tailwind, and doesn't mean that Tailwind is bad because I'm really smart and I have good opinions. Like, that's not what I'm saying. It's just for my development workflow, it's not good, and you should be okay with that because I'm not you and I have different preferences than you. And if I were to join a company and the team was using Tailwind, I would learn to use it because that's the established standards of the project. But if I were starting a team and starting a project, I would not use it, straight up. Spring Boot is all over the place. I have a project for my final bachelor's degree, and I'm going to ask you to maybe do a code review. Would you be down for that? I'd be down, yeah. You've been a member of the community for a very long time. I haven't done code reviews in a while, but I'm down. I'd be happy to look at it. DM me on Discord. We should set something up. Because I don't know when we would do that, but DM me. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Yeah, I mean, other programmers out there will have you and will make you feel this way. If the coding gardener doesn't use Tailwind, then no one should. No, if Tailwind works for you, use it. Use it. Okay. Now, let's do the setup. So in our main.ts, we need, I'll do it one at a time. So we need to import Quasar. Like that. They have programs to help Tailwind users. I don't know if you're joking or not. Like, it's okay, you are joking. It's not too late to get out. I thought you meant like, yeah, there are build tools and ways that you can better use CSS and stuff in your or create utility classes and stuff. They have programs for that. But what you're saying is, stop it. Get some help. The Tailwind addiction program. All right, and then we need to use the Quasar plugin right before we mount the app. So very similar to how we were, we use the router as a plugin. We use Pina, which is essentially global state management. We use that as a plugin. We can use Quasar as well. And then Quasar, specifically by adding this plugin, it essentially makes all of the Quasar components globally available, so I don't have to import a button in every single component that I'm in. I think technically, if I didn't add the plugin here, I could just manually import, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, you're totally right. Thank you, Nahueljo. We need the Quasar CSS as well. And then I'm going to import my global CSS below that, so if there's actually any like global level overrides that I need to override, I'll override it in my global CSS. Thank you. Thank you all for this, for the reminder. And then we need the Vite plugin. So if we look at our Vite config, we can see that we have the Vue plugin, but we need to also add the Quasar plugin. And then we need to update the Vue plugin import. So this needs to say transform asset URLs like this. And then Quasar like this. Cool? Cool. And at this point, we should be able to use a button. So let's look at a button. And let's grab a primary button. What is transform assets URL? No idea. No idea. I have a feeling it has to do with whenever you're importing assets of some kind. So when you're importing CSS, or maybe when you're importing images and such. And it's possible that Quasar has their own way of doing that. So that's why we need to add that. My guess also is that we probably don't need this because we're not doing like a mobile app or a desktop app. But I'm just going to add it anyways. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. Should be all right. And whoa! Would you look at that? Yeah, so I killed it. Let me run my linter really quick. Just to make sure there's nothing, I didn't forget anything. Yeah, I agree, Octavius. They should put dark mode on their docs. I honestly think it would get more adoption, because like I was looking through it and like I don't I was like, do they even support dark mode? But that's the next thing that we will enable. Cool. Okay. So now that we have that all set up, I should be able to do that. And Q button comes from, look at that. So I have Volar, the Vue extension. Vue language feature is called Volar. I have that installed, and it's able to do all kinds of inference and type completion in my template in my files and such. So it knows where Q button is coming from because we set up the plugin here, and we also set up the over here we set up Quasar as a plugin as well. So that's how it knows that we can find Q button. And if I did it right, we should have, we have a nice little button. Great. Great. Yeah, and so now let's set up dark mode. First of all, I'm going to get rid of those example styles that I have here. Let's just get rid of that, so it should go back to default. But now let's enable dark mode. Dark mode. How to use it. The dark plugin. The plugin is automatically installed. No need to do anything but directly use it. So inside of a Vue file, outside of a Vue file, through a Quasar config. Let's do that. So in a file called quasar.config.ts, let's see if let's call it .js. Let's kill the build and restart it, and then just see if we get dark mode. If we don't, then it's probably not even looking at the Quasar config, because we didn't. Yeah, I have so many configs. And Nahueljo, thank you very much for that Prime sub. So I have the config, but I didn't use the Quasar CLI, so I don't even know if it would. Yeah, I don't think it even knows that. I'd have to do some other thing to actually pull that in. Honestly, I think if I just set this in the if I do this in the app component, let's try doing that. So I'm going to get rid of this Quasar config. It would be nice if we had a separate folder for configs, but a lot of these tools expect their config to be at the top level. But here's what I'm going to do. In my app.view, which is the top level component that loads everything else, this is loading the router view, which loads all of the other components. So inside of here, I should be able to do something like this, and then set dark mode to true. But once we get this working, we could tap into the media query thing, and then only enable dark mode if the user has dark mode enabled. So now, look at that. Look at that. Cool. But there is a way in JavaScript get user color scheme preference. How to detect a user's preferred color scheme preference. You can do it in CSS. You can also do it in JavaScript. Window.getComputedStyle. Well, are you going to show me an example that I can copy paste? Window.matchMedia. That's what we want. I don't know why they have 0 points. I'm not logged in, but I would upvote that. This should work anyways. So if prefer color scheme dark, then set it. So if result dot matches, set dark mode to true. And this will only happen on page load. If a user like toggles their color preference, this will not catch that. I'm curious if there's like a watch media instead of match media. Like, how can I be alerted when that media query changes? Testing media queries programmatically. Yeah, so they would listen to orientation change. Media query list. Oh! Oh, no, you literally just... Whoa! That's so cool. Okay, I didn't know you could do that. Okay. So, our query is this. Let's call this the dark query. The dark query. And... Oh, I see. So we already have the... we have the query list here. And then you can actually just attach an event listener to it. So you can say query list.add event listener for change. So when the user's color preference changes, do something with it. Huh. And so we can say if event.matches, set dark to true. Otherwise, set dark to false. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. We could make it even cleaner, right? So, yeah, that makes our code so much cleaner if we just do that, and then similarly right here. Now, on a Mac, I don't think it's possible. Yeah, so the event is the media query list event, and it has a matches property, which is a Boolean. Now, how can I toggle my color preference? I don't think there's a way to do it on a Mac. Let's see. Or isn't it in my, like, system preferences or something like that? Dark mode? Appearance. You can do it in the dev tools. Box dev tools, set color preference. Event.matches specifically is if a media query is matched currently. So right now the media query is, does the user prefer the color scheme dark? And if they do, we're setting dark mode in Quasar. And also, I totally forgot, but Timon said we should do this. And now I've just gone down this rabbit hole of doing it, but we're actually doing it. We're doing it, and it should work well enough. I just want to test that we actually get light mode as well. I'll probably just change it in the settings here. So I'm going to go with light mode. Oh, wow. That's going to change everything. And now that I changed it in my system preferences, yeah, it didn't detect the change here, but I think certain operating systems might actually... yeah, that didn't seem to work. Ooh, I hate it. It's all... Oh, I don't like it at all. Oh, you're probably right. It is... so this is separate from my system settings. It's probably my Firefox settings. So if I go to light mode... Yeah! Wow! Dark mode. Nice. Cool. Yeah, and now Nahueljo is mentioning, is it really necessary to add an event listener for something that the user will never change? The thing is, certain users will change it, and there probably are plugins for whatever browser you're using that will let you switch between dark and light mode. Because for me, I like dark mode all the time, but some people only use dark mode at night and like to use light mode during the day. So this will help with that. Yeah. If only the Quasar docs knew about it. Yeah, I could probably make a PR and say, yo, do this. Yeah, so there we go. Default GN in the chat prefers light mode during the day and dark mode at night. Oh, here we go. Watching for status change. Oh, I see. But this is internal to Quasar. So this is like, if the Quasar dark preference changes, you can listen to it here. All right, I'm happy with that, and I'm glad it was pretty easy to figure out. And also, I learned this. I learned that you could actually listen for changes on a media query. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did, Battle Orbit. Look, it's right here. It's right here. I had no idea you could do this. So, like, right now we're doing this with prefers color scheme dark, but you could also do this with, like, window max width, to determine if the user like resizes the window or if they're so cool. Only a front-end dev would add stuff for resize or toggling color scheme. Yeah, I set my theme to dark, not the dev edition theme. Is there a difference? What's the difference? I'm gonna keep it with dark. Welcome in, Phoenix Rising. Yeah, it's the late show, the late show with Coding Garden. All right, what do we do with all this time? we set up the project. We've got our components. I guess next thing is we need to research API requests. I really wish they had dark mode. I'm gonna add. I can't look at their light docs. I'm gonna install this extension and enable it. Typo on eSling? Thank you. There we go. Oh, no, not that. This. Yeah, so if you haven't used it, Dark Reader is pretty sweet. It'll just put dark mode on any website. Okay. But I want to disable it for certain websites that have their own dark theme like that. Yeah. Cool. Now, TanStack query or React query is the de facto thing in the React world. And you can see in their docs that they're like, hey, vue-query is on the way, but it doesn't exist yet. And there is a project called vue-query. But it's not associated with TanStack query. So I'm curious. Yeah, that's the thing about Dark Reader, though, is I have to inverted list only. There we go. Now I have to manually enable it. I'm curious if they know that React Query is trying to add support. V2 roadmap? Yeah, I literally just figured that out because like GitHub has their own dark theme and everything else. So like certain websites, you just want to use their default dark theme. Yeah. Okay. View query hooks can only be used inside setup function. That's if you're using Nuxt. Okay. I think I'm just gonna use it. I don't know if there's anybody out there that has experience with it, but like React Query like library for Vue. I mean, I'm gonna assume it's vue query. Like, they have almost 1,000 stars. So Momotombo was saying vue query is the way to go. Okay. Yeah. So basically, that's what it gives you. Battle Orbit is you still need Axios or Fetch, but it basically gives you, so this query object that you get back has a loading state, an error state, and then an actual data property, and it handles all of that under the hood for you. So you essentially pass it a promise. It handles the resolving of that promise and handles setting loading, data, and errors. And then it also caches it. So if you have some other component that needs this same data from this same API endpoint, your code will look the same, but behind the scenes, it's like, oh, we already have that data and it's cached. It hasn't been invalidated, so you can just use the data from the cache rather than needing to re-request it. Whereas typically, you implement all of that from scratch in your Pina store or in your Vuex store. Vue Axios. A small wrapper for integrating Axios into Vue. Oh yeah, I don't like this. It's valid, so it almost gives you like an Angular-like experience where you have $HTTP. I like to just import Axios directly into my components. Pina is the new default. Yeah, so whenever you generate a Vue app, you now get Pina instead of Vuex. Pina is preferred because it's just simpler. And that's not it. We want to look at the counter. You define a store. It returns an object that can have actions or reactive variables or anything else, and now you can use that anywhere in your app. Honestly, it's like Pina is probably a super simple library. Like I could write my own function called define store, and it would probably work in a very similar way. Yeah, and well, actually, Vuex does have all of the composition APIs, like use store, and there's probably a few others, but this basically gives you a composition function that you can then import to any component. Yeah. So if you remember when we did the React CRUD client, that's when we were dealing with vue query. And then state while revalidate for Vue. I mean, this has more stars than vue query. However, it's in beta for Vue 3, whereas vue query just worked. I'm gonna use vue query. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I'm going to use. So let's set it up. I think I literally just install it. It has more stars. It has a Wikipedia page? Or you're trolling because that's a recent stream meme where I'm like, if they have a Wikipedia page, they must be real. Can't use beta software in this production app. I mean, apparently that's the decisions that we're making. So that's why we chose Quasar, is because it's not in beta and supports Vue 3, whereas Vuetify is in beta. They do have docs, but the deal with vue-query is like they just say, hey, go look at the React query docs because it works exactly the same way. Yeah, so yeah, and that's a good to mention Battle Orbit. So there's a lot of ways to gauge a project's viability, right? So first of all, GitHub stars is one, but GitHub stars is not an indication of how many people are actually using it. I did see for vue-query, there's I think 15,000 weekly installs from npm, so that's pretty decent usage. Yeah, so 15,000 weekly downloads for vue-query, and then Swerve. I can't believe they got that name on npm. Swerve. It has less weekly downloads. That's such an interesting thing, right? It's like they have twice as many GitHub stars, so apparently like they developed a lot of hype around the project, and people are like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But who's actually using it, right? Because more people are downloading vue-query than they are this SWRV. And yeah, like that's another thing, is like you can't really take weekly downloads at its face value, because it could be, well, every single build of a project needs to potentially do an npm install of this project. So, but I mean, that's also an indicator of people potentially using it in production. I don't know. But we could do a similar thing with comparing Quasar to Vuetify, though. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with vue-query based on the fact that it has more weekly downloads and the fact that it is completely similar to, and oh, they do have docs. They have docs. It's completely similar to React query. So here we go. Use the plugin. It's growing on vue-query. It's very non-linear on SWRV. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why we chose Quasar, is because it also does material design. We specifically were looking for a material design component library. Yeah, and I mean, like I know that Vuetify is more popular. The only issue is their version 3 isn't released yet. It's still in beta. Okay. Call use query provider in the root component. I can do that. So that's going to be our app.vue. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the tricky part. It's like Vuetify has been the most popular thing. One of the most popular component libraries in the Vue ecosystem for a very long time. And for whatever reason, they've been slow to create version 3 that supports Vue 3. So we're set up. We are an hour into stream, and we're ready to actually start writing features. This is insane. Let me set up like a nav bar. I can close that. I can close that. Yeah, let's see what Quasar has for navbar. Yeah, we need to. I mean, I think that's the. So some people were I don't know. They weren't trying to derail with Tailwind, but we did get a bit derailed talking about Tailwind, and you all got me to say mean things, and You probably did that on purpose, and somebody probably clipped it and then tweeted it, and they're like, look at Coding Garden, he's out here with the hot takes. It doesn't matter though, because it's probably taken out of context. Because if you go to that clip and you watch afterwards, you see me talk about how, like, my opinion doesn't matter. Like, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. And people need to realize that. All right, how do I find an app bar? Is it called like app bar? Bar. Toolbar. Yeah, like this bar at the top. This is what I want. I derailed again. No, I don't. Not even you, Limotes, because I mean, like, you're very pragmatic about it. Because I know that you do like Tailwind, Limotes. Yeah. CJ saying mean things. I don't know. I guess it's also the second stream that I've done today. All right. So our app component is at the top level. It has the router view, which all the pages get loaded into. So, like, technically we could create like a layout component, but our app component kind of is the layout. So I'm just going to throw this right here. And let's see what we get. Yeah, and I think that's my main point. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, and also they don't make a distinction between what you're actually trying to do, right? I want pre-built components. Designing UI components is a hard job. Like, it's not easy to create an entire design system of buttons and forms and form state and nav bars. Like, this is a lot of work to create these kinds of components, and Tailwind does not give you that. Now, of course, there are component libraries built on top of it that give you that, like Flowbyte or Daisy or some of the others, but why not just use one of the more established component libraries? I don't know. Yeah. I don't like it anymore after these past few streams. I mean, come on, don't listen to me. All right, I want that purple I want that purple toolbar. How did they do that? They literally did BG purple. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with the, background gray 3. And so this is the other interesting thing about, like, using a component library like Quasar, is they give you a lot of these utilities that you would get in Tailwind. I don't want to class attributes. I want that. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, here's the thing. Okay, shield your eyes for a second. I need to turn off Dark Reader because I am I need to see what it actually looks like. I can't look at the Dark Reader version of it because I don't want background gray 3. I want that. Yeah, sorry everyone. Cool. Looks good to me. Let's change the title. This is going to be a Vue CRUD client. And then we'll get rid of that little button. Oh. We'll get rid of that button right there. Nice. Though the toolbar is the exact same color as the background. I don't like that. Let's do this. BG black, text white. I guess the issue with that is if you turn on light mode, that's not going to toggle. Yeah, welcome in, Shark Turn Up. Yeah. And honestly, I'm only going to be streaming for like roughly 30, 40 more minutes. But we can get a lot done in that amount of time. if I start worrying less about styling. Okay, I have to keep dark mode on over here. And we'll just try not to deal with the styling. So I want to look at layout, because they probably have like a container component. Yeah, layout and grid. Layout. Layout page? queue page container. I think this is what I want. So basically in my app here, I want to wrap the router view in a layout. And then the router view loads it onto a page. That did nothing for us. Basically what I'm looking for is like a container class that gives it a little bit of margin on the edges. Yeah, no, and I mentioned that, Limo. It's like those are utility classes that you get, but you also get all of the other components and stuff like that. Yeah. Quasar Dev Layout Builder. Let's look at it. I don't want to spend too much time doing it, but let's see. What? Queue layout. Yeah, welcome in, Codex. No, I mean honestly. So you want to see how easy this is? Check it out. Let's create our own little class, or actually we can just add our own style for main. Let's see if there's a built-in container class, because there actually might be. There's not. So we can just define the container class as a global style here. Margin 0 auto. Width 90%. That's all I wanted. That's literally all I wanted. Yeah, we're not using Tailwind. No. I mean, I know you don't mean any harm by it, but we've been talking about why we're not using Tailwind for so long. Oh, I just had to add a view property? Let's try it. Let me save this. Go back. Okay. Check the builder. View equals, but I don't know what all this is. I guess this is defining like left, right, top, bottom. Queue page container. No, I have that. I am using a queue page container. This ancient CSS technology looks so interesting. Yes. Padding? Oh, is that what I needed? That's what I needed. Padding. No. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about it. Yay! Okay, let's let's write some code. So at this point, our app is set up. We want to call our API. So I'm going to create a folder called lib for library. And inside of that, I'm going to have my api.ts file. I am going to install Axios as a dev dependency. Axios, or not as a dev dependency, as a direct dependency. Axios has really good TypeScript support, and it has error handling and automatic parsing and content negotiation. You don't get that with Fetch, which is why I'm using Axios. So I'm going to import Axios in from Axios. Good to go. And then I'm going to create an API client. So I can do axios.create and then pass in a base URL, and it has request interceptors. It has so many features. If you're building a production app, you want something like Axios. There are other libraries out there, but you want something like it. Using Fetch directly requires a lot of extra code. So our base URL is going to look at localhost, I think 5,000? /API/v1. And then I'm going to go spin up my backend. So this CRUD API we built about a month ago. But it has a Docker compose. So if we spin that up, that'll spin up the database and the API, and then it should be ready for requests. Yeah, yes, of course, Streels. I have a lot of ports open. All of my browser overlays are running on certain ports. That's why. Put qpage container in your layout and qpage padding inside your view page. I thought about that, but if everything is just going to be a page anyways, why not put it at the layout level? I don't know. Poor CJ justifying every package. Yeah, so here, the thing is, we are in an era of Twitch where there are some very opinionated people on here that say things without backing them up, and then you have so many people coming into the Twitch chat that echo those opinions without really knowing why those opinions are there to begin with. And I mean, I'm not singling out any one person. It's a lot. There's a lot of that happening on Twitch. Ooh, we have a to-do already. Cool. Okay. So our API is up and going. We now have ourselves a little API client. Let's work on find all. So I want to be able to list all of the to-dos on the page. Let's work from the API function first. So I'm going to have a function, an async function called getAll. Find all, takes in no arguments, and then just makes an HTTP request. So it's just going to say API .get, and my opinion is pineapple works on pizza. I think that's fine. Like it goes with everything I've said about everything else. If you like it, great. I'm not going to hate you for liking something. Why would I hate you for liking something? Why would I think you're bad for liking something? If you get joy out of it, why not? why not? Why do I have to make you feel bad about your decisions? I'm not going to do that. Imagine having opinions. Imagine having preferences. Yeah, you're totally right, Lamos. It's manifesting on Twitch, but it is appearing in basically all social platforms. Definitely. Okay, we've got our find all. It's going to make a request to /todos. Looks good. Yeah, we extract out the data. This will throw an exception if there was an error making the request. Seems good. So let's create. We're not going to create a page yet because the home page will list all of the to-dos. So what I want is in my script here, this is where we're going to use vue-query. So if we look at their documentation, I want to do something like this. Use query. And this is going to be for the find all query. And then right here I can pass in api.findAll like this. I need to import use query from vue-query, I think. Yeah, so we import vue-query from vue-query like that. And then I need to import API. It can't help me with that, so I'll have to do it manually. Import API from, go up a directory and go into lib and then grab API. Cool. I didn't export API, I exported individual functions. So yeah, actually I want to just do find all. There it is, yeah. Okay, so this should handle it. So basically what this says is when the component mounts, make the request, cache it, keep track of loading state, all of that good stuff. So this query object has a bunch of properties on it. It has loading, it has data, it has error, and we can use all of that in here. So let's grab a loading component from Quasar. Progress, circular progress. Come on. Come on. Wait, they had an update. Did they push dark mode? No, they didn't. Okay, I was about to say they're watching this. They're watching the stream right now, and they pushed dark mode to the site. Circular progress. Cool. I want an indeterminate progress like that. Beautiful. So, and then, look, oh, they gave me the thing I needed to put it in the center, too. Amazing. So, I'm not going to put this in main. I'm just going to have a div that's going to have everything. I don't want to set the size. Let's see just what we get by doing this. That's beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. And I only want to show this if query dot, oof, it's having an issue with, I did delete color equals line. So I guess technically I could destructure it because I can just grab the things that I need. So yeah, I can have is loading, there should be an error property on here. Yeah, error, and then there should be a data property as well, data. Yeah, so I can use all three of these. And then I can just say vif is loading, like that. Cool. And now, it's not loading, so we don't see that. So one way we can demonstrate this working is if we go back over to that API. Let's just do a little sleep function. We want a new promise. That will do a set timeout. That's going to last 2 seconds until it resolves. Cool. So now when the page loads, it should take 2 seconds. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Now we get the data. So this is what I'm going to explain vue-query right now. This is what it gives us. If I wanted loading state, error state, and data, I would have to write all of this myself, right? I would have to write a little function that invokes this call here, wraps it in a try-catch, has a loading variable for when I start making the request. If there was an error, set the error. When everything is done, set loading to false. So this is handling all of that plumbing work that you usually do when you're dealing with APIs. It handles all of that for me. And also it caches it. So if there was some other component that needed this exact same query, if the data was already requested, it wouldn't re-request it. It would use the cache. There's a way of invalidating the cache so that the request goes through again. Yeah, why did I do this instead of that? Just a style preference. Like, technically, yes. Technically, you can just do this, and it should work the same way. It'll invoke it for you. But I like being explicit, and then sometimes your query might somehow get an argument. I don't know. I just like it this way. But you're right. It'll work the other way, too. Okay, let's also show the error. So we should get a nice little alert box for that. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, literally every single UI you build, you want a loading state. You want to show errors. Like, you do it all the time. Isn't alert a thing? Can anyone think of the name of the component I want that is basically like a red error alert thingy? Is it dialog? There's notify? Banner. Banner. Yes. You've lost connection to the internet. Turn on your Wi-Fi. That's what we want. Text white, big red. Thank you. Thank you, Battle Orbit. You're good at this. You seem like you've done this before. All right. That goes there. And then right here we can show error. Cool. And then let's, how can we simulate an error? We'll do like a 404. So if we make the request to the wrong spot, we should see the error. The view template is, yeah, and you're right, I want to v-if it, but also this actually needs to be error.response .data.message, if that exists. Otherwise, we could just do error.message. And then this complains because it's like, hey, what's that response property? We need to pass the correct type into vue-query to say what kind of error that it's going to resolve to. And then similarly, we can just throw a v-if on this. So I can say v-if error. If error has a value, then and then show this. And then, yeah, it doesn't exist on that type because we need an error type. So Axios also has the type for Axios error. And then we can create a type with that. Yeah, I don't think I want to use the notify API because I just want it to be persistent at the top, not like a. It's not a. What do you call those things? A toast? It's not a toast. It's just a persistent error at the top. Now we import types from our backend. So if you remember when we built this app with React, we did a similar thing, but let me show you the types that I'm talking about. So we built an Express API, and we defined a bunch of types in there. So we defined like our error type, and we defined the type for the to-do. So this error response is an interface that extends message response, and message response says this is an object with a message. So I actually want to reuse these types that I defined in my backend, but I want to reuse them in my front end code. And I can do that. I'm allowed to do that, and I'll show you why and how. So I'm going to create a types.ts file where I'm going to import those types from my backend code. So I'm going to import type. It's important that you use the type keyword. I'm going to import type error response from, go up a directory, go up another directory, go into the Express API, go into the source folder, go into interfaces, and grab that error response thing. And actually, I want export type error response. And is it a default export? It is. So this should work. I think I just, it's going to yell at me because it's like, don't do this. Don't reach out. How do I do this? I might need to go look at the React code that we wrote. Oh yeah, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is optional chaining. And we need this because response might be undefined and data might be undefined. So that's not a Vue thing. This is a JavaScript thing. This should be illegal. No, it's totally legal. Let me see how I did it in my React app. That's what I want. Export default as. Yeah, yeah. Battle Orbit has it. And then, yeah, and so then I don't want that. I want to actually disable this linter error because I don't want to use relative packages. So let me show you what happens here. So if I do this, it changes it so that instead of being a relative file path, it actually gives it a name like that. But I would need to have that set up specifically, and typically you do something like that in a mono repo. But this is not a mono repo. I mean, it kind of is. But I'm not using any sort of mono repo tool like Turbo Repo or Lerna, which means I do need to do a relative import. So I'm going to disable that error for this, and then now it's probably just complaining about Yeah. Let's see. Projects must list all files or use an include pattern. Did we add an include pattern in our TS config for our React app? We didn't. Alka says, I never remember how this works. Yeah, me neither. This is complaining because it says preferred default export, but I don't want it to be the default export. I want it to be a named export. We're just going to disable that for now. Re-exporting a type when the isolated modules flag is provided requires using export type. That is definitely what we want. We took that off. So export type. That's good. But then this is complaining about TypeScript config. File is not under root dir. Root dir is expected to contain all source files. Yeah, so it's outside of the root dir of TS config. You can look at the TS config. This is the thing? Let's see. Well, references? Maybe the thing is, like, I don't want to reference the entire. Yeah, I don't want to reference my backend TS config. Yeah. And Melinda's saying, is it good to commit this many file changes in one commit? Probably not. So if you're working on a team, all of this work would have been split into multiple features. Like even the app setup should have been its own commit. Setting up vue-query should have been its own commit. You could probably combine these two into a commit. So yeah, this is not best commit practices. Yeah. How many months can one learn TypeScript with 2 hours daily of coding? There's no way to tell. No way to tell. It's different for everyone. And you don't just learn TypeScript. You learn how to build apps using TypeScript. And my suggestion is that you learn just enough TypeScript to get those apps built. So change the way you're thinking about it is basically all I'm saying. All right, I'm going to TS ignore this because I know it's going to work. And we'll try to fix that error later. So import that specific type. Now I want to use this type in my API definition. And Jifferam with the 25 months. Oh, goodness. That's so much. Thank you so much. Hey, buddy. Happy 25 months. Hope your week is going splendidly. Ended up failing my OSCP last week. Oh, that's not good to hear. Rooted 2 machines in the first couple hours, then spent the remainder of my time spinning my wheels. Well, best of luck to you. Hopefully you can get at it again. But 25 months, that's a long time. Thank you for being a supporter for so long. Yeah, and so I think, like, you don't just learn TypeScript. You don't just learn JavaScript. You learn how to work with it, and then you learn more as you go. Like, I mean, I've been using JavaScript for 8 years at this point, and I don't consider myself a JavaScript expert. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know about it and don't use. Yeah, so as a beginner, you really have to change the way you think about this stuff. It's not, how long does it take me to learn it? It is, you just start using it. You'll get better at it. You'll always get better at it. Like the code I'm writing today is better than the code I was writing a few months ago. And I won't say you always get better. You should strive to be better. Because if you're always striving to be better, like, what more can you ask for? Let's grab those types. Like this. Okay, so now that I have this error response type, I want to define a type called API error. And this is going to be an Axios error of type error response. Like that. Because specifically, when an Axios request throws an error, it actually wraps the parsed response in an error object, and I need to define that this way. But now I can use this type over here to tell vue-query that, hey, if this thing throws an error, it's going to be of that type, and then it will know that that response property exists. Why is this complaining? Import is never used as a value. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Where would I suggest learning good commit practices? I don't have a good resource for you. I mean, I learned by like being on a team, and then also by like teaching GitHub to students. But oh, I thought we disabled that though, because it's a TypeScript error rather than a linter error. Oh, not that. It took us all the way to the definition. I just want this one. Yeah, so we already disabled that one, but then this isn't a linter error. This was a TypeScript error, but that's why I'm just TS ignoring it there. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Jeffrey was saying exactly the point. The notes I took when I first started hacking are far better today than when I first started. I've gotten to the point where my markdown notes can easily be exported into a report. Also a big thing with programming or comments. Love well-commented code, yeah. I think that's the thing, like, the programming, software development is a craft. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and there's no shortcuts. There's no like, you just have to do it. Yeah, okay, so we have that type. Now I can specifically type this vue-query function, but actually I need some more types. So if I go over to my types file, I also want to export the to-do type, which describes the to-do object, from my backend code as well. So I'm going to grab to-do from source/API/to-dos model, like that. So the to-do type describes a thing that has a content property and a done property. And then I also want to-do with ID, which describes an object that has content done and an ID property. But now I can use those types in my vue-query over here. So vue-query should be generic in that I can tell it this thing is actually going to respond with an array of to-do with ID. And if there is an error, it will be of type API error, like this. And then I can add that in. Oh, apparently we have relative imports. That's really cool. Or like the, I can do the @ sign. That's already set up for me. I forgot that that's a thing in Vue. They set that up for you. And then I want to also pull in API error from there. But technically that's a type. So I need to import type from. Oh yeah, no worries, drills. But yeah, that is a thing. So whenever you set up a Vue app, it already has that alias set up for you as well, which is nice. Okay, but now that I've typed this, it knows that error is of type API error, and it knows that it has a response property because Axios error has that response property on it. So that's why we added those typings in there, is so that I get that type completion. And then lastly, we can just iterate over the data. So let's go grab a card component. And for now, we're just going to put the content of the to-do in the card. So how do I do a card? Q-card section. Oh, I can do that, Windward Hive? Thank you. Type API. Error. Nice! Thank you, Windward Hive. They're on the TypeScript team, so they know. They know their TypeScript. I am using a really old IKEA standing desk, and I have so much stuff on my desk that it is not a quick thing to just bring the desk up or bring the desk down. So I just leave it up all the time. It might be prettier fixing that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I still have a chair. It's right there. And on days when I'm not streaming, if I'm doing a lot of stuff, I'll actually sit down instead of stand. I don't know. Standing lately has been really good for my back. Okay. We got ourselves a card. And we want to repeat this card for every to-do in data. Why is this complaining? Custom elements must have a key. Yeah, so for every item, it will have a key, which is to-do dot underscore, look at that type completion, underscore ID, like that. And then also, I don't want to do this unless data actually exists, like that. Now, this is complaining because it doesn't want you to have a VIF combined with a v4. So like technically, we should wrap this in like a container div and then only display that if data exists and then put the card inside of it like that. Why is this complaining? Oh, and then I need to toString this because technically it's of type like object ID. So yeah, we toString that. And now inside I can just say todo.content, and that should show after it loads, we'll get a card that shows learn TypeScript. Oh no, we won't, because because we broke our API. We actually didn't even check the error thing. So a lot of stuff is happening. But first of all, the endpoint is broken. Also, you can see another benefit of using this vue-query thing. It literally tried to hit my backend 3 different times because each one failed. And so that's another thing that you'd have to code yourself if you wanted retries. If you look in their settings, there's probably there's a setting for how many retries you want to do. And yeah, you can set up default options as well. I'm curious where this actually happens at, because I didn't create an instance of a query client anywhere. Yeah, there are other libraries that would work for you for sure, but this just does it by default, and it doesn't care that this is an Axios request. So basically, the thing that you pass in here is just something that returns a promise. Anything that returns a promise. In this case, it's an actual Axios request. But we have use query provider. Does this have options? Query cache? We should look at the docs for use query provider. Should look at the API for use query provider. What am I doing? I'm trying to disable retries in vue-query. We get default options. There they are. And then yeah, there it is. Okay, that's the winner. And then retries, I want to set. Actually, I want to disable this so that it doesn't do retries. But that's what we were showing is by default, it just keeps hitting my API. But because right now the default is 3 retries. And I want to set it to 0. So queries and then retry, I'm going to set to 0. So don't retry at all. Basically, if the first request fails, show an error in the console. So if we refresh the app, it got a not found, and then immediately showed that error, and it didn't try it 3 times. So that's cool. Now over here, let's make sure that we have the right endpoint, and then refresh. After 2 seconds, we should see a card that says Learn TypeScript. We've done it. We've done it. We can see stuff. All right, I'm actually going to stop here. That's awesome. Next time, and I'll figure out when I want to schedule it. So if we take a look at my schedule. Oh no! Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta eat dinner. I've been live for about 2 hours. So I am gonna be live tomorrow morning. So 14 hours from now, I will be live again. Yeah, I don't plan on doing a Docker file for the client. So typically when I'm working with a completely client-side app, so this is a Vue app that's going to get bundled into only client-side code, I typically don't build a Docker container for that. If anything, it just slows things down. I really only have Docker containers and Docker Compose when I'm dealing with databases. So I don't see a need to containerize this. You could, but I don't usually do that. I have pizza for dinner. But I will say, we're going to continue this app. It might not be until next week. So maybe next week around the same time we'll continue working on this app. But I just want to say, Vue is a breath of fresh air. Like, having worked with so much React, like, we're only 2 hours into the stream. We have a completely set up app with all of the developer tooling I want, all of the dependencies that I need, and it's just working wonderfully. Like, it's great. It's great. Now, obviously, like, I've used a lot of Vue.js, and so I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't even say I'm more familiar with Vue than I am with React, because I wrote React for my job for over 3 years, and also taught React for like at least 2 years. So I've probably written more React than I've written Vue. But every time I come back to Vue, I'm always like, they figured it out. It's all about the developer experience here. Like, things are just built in, things just work. It's kind of amazing. This will be interesting when we're done building it, though, because we can make some comparisons between the React app that we built. Actually, let's just do that right now before I go. Let me just show you one-to-one how we're building these two different things. So first of all, our API file looks exactly the same. I haven't done the refactor to extract the data yet, but when working specifically with an API here, it's no different. Like, this is not framework dependent when I'm making API requests. Yeah. Oh, and I totally forgot. We actually can type. We can type this request here, like this. Like that. Okay, but for instance, if we look at the home page, we can compare the two. So I have this use query that does the find all. It pulls in is loading error and data. And then in my React app, similar, but I'm also pulling in is fetching, because that we needed that for when we invalidate the cache. And then also determining if there's an error. But you can see that I added the type arguments in the exact same way. Like that and like that. And then also we specified a selector which reversed the list. I'm curious if we can do that here. Yeah, we can. Basically, vue-query implements the exact same API as React query. And then in the render function, so in React you use either conditionals like this or ternaries to decide if you want to render something. So in React we said if there's an error, use the alert component that came from Material UI and display the message there. Whereas in Vue, we just have this Q banner, which is kind of like alert, and we say v-if error. I really like v-if. It comes, like, I like the syntax better. It's not as cumbersome as like conditionals in JSX, and there's less curly braces and less stuff like that. I like it better, but that's just my preference. And then we can see similar, so we this grid is a component from Material UI that gives us like a flex box, but in the case of Quasar, we just have these flex classes. My preference is correct. We should start some kind of meme like that, because that's really is a thing right now. Like, my preferences are better than yours, mine are right, and anything that are not my preferences are wrong. And if you have those, you are wrong, and you are bad. And then circular progress is a component from Material UI, but again, if it's loading, we show it, and in this case, we have the conditionals there, so someone click that. But also, I should move if loading to the parent container, like that. Yeah. No, in Xyrus, see, that's the thing. So all of these frameworks, I was actually lurking CM Griffin's stream earlier today, and he was talking about this, how, let's shout him out, CM Griffin G, talking about how all of these frameworks, like, they steal good ideas from each other. And Vue absolutely stole a bunch of ideas from Angular JS, Angular version 1. Like VF, V4, all of that stuff. They just did it better, and then they took good ideas from React as well. They're using a virtual DOM in here, and that originated in React. I don't know if it originated in React. React made the virtual DOM popular. But yeah, all of these frameworks steal from each other. But I used to write Angular JS, and I used to do ngIf and stuff like that. I guess in Angular proper, the latest Angular, it still is ngIf, isn't it? I don't know. Okay, this was fun. I'll push this code up. So if you take a look at the GitHub repo, I'll probably for now push it to a separate branch. But if you want to look at this code, it's going to be here. And so they changed the syntax, that star ngIf thing. Yeah, and I think I missed the message that you sent, Drills, but there's a couple of places where I need to update the relative imports, like this. That. Why am I not creating it with Quick? Quick is very new. I think, so did they just go into beta, or did they, and you spelled it wrong, it's with a Q. What did they recently had a release, because Fireship did a video on it. Tweeter? I saw on r/react.js that JSX is objectively better, and that's all the proof I need. Oh, thank you for the raid, Ending with Ollie. I am literally on the way out. Hopefully you all will join us. We're about to raid someone else, but thank you for the raid. You're too kind. You're too kind. Shouts out to Ending with Ollie. But I gotta go. Gotta go eat dinner. Get ready for bed. What were you working on? Deployment no worky. Well, did you get it working? But welcome in, raiders. Today we were writing some Vue.js code, and I mentioned it earlier, but Vue is a breath of fresh air. Like, I just like the way it works, and there's usually like less code than in React. I really like it. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, Quick had a release, right? Was it a beta release or a release candidate? What was the... Yeah, beta is out. 11 hours ago. I think it's really cute that they're trying to do memes. Does this meme work? Maybe, but they're also, like, usually you compare... With this meme, you're typically comparing two different things versus the same thing with a different version. I don't know. No, I quit my day job, and I'm focusing on making tutorials and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, all of the code I wrote today, I'm going to push up here to like a work-in-progress Vue branch, and then next week we're going to finish up this app. That's it for today. Check out the schedule. I'll be live in roughly 14 hours again. And I'm going to be doing some CSS, so that'll be fun. It's been a while since we actually just did a stream only working with CSS. And I'm specifically doing that because we're going to count how many people tell me to just use Tailwind in the chat. No, that's a joke, because specifically we're actually working on some user styles. I modified an existing user style for Wikipedia. This is it, Wikipedia Clean Dark. If you want to install it, you can get it here. Let's find it. Yeah, no worries, Mambo Tombo. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for your questions. But basically, I wrote a custom style for Wikipedia, and then I have this extension called Stylus. I install the style, and now whenever I visit Wikipedia, it looks like this. However, the code is really messy because first of all, I just copied and pasted it from the one that it was based on, and then I just started adding a bunch of stuff to the bottom of the file. So what I want to do tomorrow is set it up properly. So we're going to set up a build with post-CSS, and we're also going to have potentially multiple files and multiple folders, and we're going to just really try to structure a good CSS project. And we're going to be using post-CSS instead of Sass. I think Limotes asked about that earlier, like, well, how do I feel about Sass? And I think Sass is great, but these days, post-CSS lets you use a lot of the things that you get in Sass, but they are more closely, they are what eventually will work in web browsers. So post-CSS specifically has a plugin for nesting, because there is a proposal, a stage 0 or a stage 1 proposal that will get nesting CSS in the standard. So eventually you'll be able to nest CSS inside of the web browser. So we're going to set up post-CSS with all of the plugins and stuff like that tomorrow. Cool. Now, I haven't used Uno CSS. I think that'd be something we should check out pretty soon as well. Oh yeah, I've totally forgot, Alka. I used to have that installed. So that's another interesting thing is these days, so many websites have a dark theme, and it's a beautiful theme. It's a beautiful thing that the dark theme is like most sites care to actually implement one. But I used to have custom user styles installed for like everything. And then since most stuff started getting dark themes, I stopped doing that. But regardless, I'm going to go now. Check out the schedule. Tune in tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. You're great. I appreciate you. Sorry I got a little mean earlier about Tailwind. It's a thing. Okay. Follow me on Twitter for not hot takes. I just tweet whenever I go live. Also, I have an email list, so join the mailing list. I send out an email whenever I go live, so if you want to get notified. Twitch is usually a little bit late with its push notifications, so you'll know sooner if you join the mailing list. That's it. That's all. Let's go on a raid. And thanks again, Ending with Ollie, for the raid. Sorry that I'm sending you all somewhere else right when you got here, but I'll send you somewhere nice, hopefully, if someone nice is streaming. But if you're a sub, use that raid message. If you're not a sub, use that raid message. Let's go. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.